जय श्री कृष्णा. Namaste दोस्तों. Hello friends. Welcome to our YouTube channel Rakesh Mishra World. My name is Rakesh Kumar Mishra. In this video, I'll be talking about the holy book in Sanatana Hindu Dharma, Shreemad Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 15. Chapter 15 is also known as Purushottama Yoga. Shreemad Bhagavad Gita is a holy book in Sanatana Hindu Dharma which contains the Supreme God Sri Krishna teachings to Arjuna. In this holy book, Supreme God Sri Krishna imparts knowledge and wisdom to Arjuna and by extension to all of us on how to live a life of purpose, meaning and fulfillment. In this chapter, Supreme God Sri Krishna speaks about the nature of the Supreme Person who is both immanent and transcendent, and also explains how we can connect with this divine essence within ourselves. Shrimad Bhagavad Gita Purushottama Yoga Chapter 15 provides insights into the nature of self and Supreme Person and offers guidance on how to attain spiritual liberation through devotion and surrender. In this chapter 15, Supreme God Sri Krishna emphasizes the importance of understanding the nature of the self and the Supreme Person and the need of spiritual practice to realize our true nature. Supreme God Sri Krishna also explains that those who understand this truth become free from the cycle of birth and death and attain eternal spiritual happiness. Shrimad Bhagavad Gita Purushottama Yoga Chapter 15 contains 20 shlokas. In this video, I'll be talking about all 20 shlokas. Shrimad Bhagavad Gita Purushottama Yoga Chapter 15 Shloka 1. In this shloka, Bhagavan Krishna explains the true nature of the material world through the analogy of the inverted Ashwatha tree, or we can say Banyan tree. He says that the tree is imperishable and has its roots upward and branches downwards, and its leaves are Vedic hymns. Bhagavan Krishna further explains that one who understands the true nature of this tree is the knower of the Vedas. The analogy of the banyan tree represents the material world with its roots representing the cause and the source of the material existence, and its branches and leaves representing the various material manifestations that arise from it. By understanding the nature of the material world and its relation to the spiritual world, one can attain the liberation from the cycle of birth and death. Shrimad Bhagavad Gita Purushottama Yoga Chapter 15 Sloka 2. In this sloka, the Supreme God Krishna describing the analogy of the banyan tree, how its branches extend downwards and upwards and are nourished by the three modes of material world, that we can say the three nature of the world. They are Sattva, Raja, Tama. Also we can say goodness, passion and ignorance respectively. The twigs of the tree represents the object of the senses that we pursue in the material world. The Supreme God Krishna describes the roots of the trees which binds us to the material world and extend downwards into the world of action. The actions we perform in the material world are the cause of our bondage to this material world and the cycle of birth and death. In this analogy, the Supreme God Krishna emphasizing the temporary and illusory nature of the material world and telling us to seek the spiritual knowledge and attain the liberation from the cycle of birth and death. Supreme God Krishna also mentions that the root of the banyan tree that extends downwards and cause actions in the human world. This refers to the cause and effect relationship of karma, where actions performed in this material world lead to further material reactions and entanglement. The metaphor of the banyan tree is used here to highlight the interdependence of the material world and its dependence on the three modes of material nature. This sloka also emphasizes the true nature of the material world and the need of detachment from it to attain the spiritual liberation. Shreemad Bhagavad Gita Purushottama Yoga, Chapter 15, Sloka 3. In this sloka, Supreme God Krishna says the Aswatha tree or the banyan tree, which is said to have its roots upward and branches downwards. Its leaves are Vedic hymns, and one who knows this tree knows the Vedas. It means the every knowledge. By cutting down the strongly rooted trees by the weapon of detachment, one can free oneself from this material world and attain the supreme destination. Supreme God Krishna explains that the true nature of this tree, that it cannot be perceived by the senses, as this has no beginning or no end. Bhagavan Krishna explains that the only way to overcome the entanglement the material existence is to cut down this strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. The metaphor of the banyan tree is used here to emphasize the importance of understanding the true nature of the material world and the need for detachment to attain spiritual liberation. It also highlights the power of spiritual knowledge and detachment as the means to cut down the roots of the tree of material existence. Shreemad Bhagavad Gita Purushottama Yoga, Chapter 15, Sloka 4. In this sloka, Bhagavan Sri Krishna emphasizes the importance of seeking the ultimate destination, which is the supreme abode, or we can say supreme destination. He states that this destination must be sought by the one who has no illusion or misconception about it, that is, who has the knowledge of the spiritual world and understands the temporary nature of the material world. Bhagavan Sri Krishna explains that once one attains this supreme abode, they never return to the material existence. This emphasizes the idea of spiritual liberation or moksha, and this is the ultimate goal of human life. Shreemad Bhagavad Gita Purushottama Yoga, Chapter 15, Sloka 5. This sloka emphasizes the qualities of the person who is devoted to the spiritual life and is on the path to the liberation. Such a person is free from the delusion of ego and victorious over the negative influence of attachment. They are always focused on inner self and their desires have been completely extinguished. In this sloka, Supreme God Krishna explains that those who are free from the delusion of materialism, who have overcome the negative association with the material world and who are always engaged in the practice of self-realization, attain the supreme goal of life. They are no longer bounded by the dualities of pleasure and pain, and they surrender themselves to the eternal God. Shreemad Bhagavad Gita Purushottama Yoga Chapter 15 Sloka 6. In this sloka, Supreme God Krishna says that his supreme abode is not illumined by the sun or the moon nor the fire. Those who reach it do not return to the material world again. In this sloka, Supreme God Krishna describing the nature of his supreme abode, which is the spiritual realm beyond the material universe. He explains that this abode is not illuminated by the sun, moon, or the fire, which are all material sources of light. It means that the spiritual realm is beyond the material world and its qualities. In this sloka, Bhagavan Sri Krishna describes those who reach to the supreme abode. They do not return to the material world again, and it suggests that the ultimate goal of human life is to attain the supreme abode of the Lord. And once one reaches there, there is no need to return to the material world. Shreemad Bhagavad Gita Purushottama Yoga Chapter 15 Sloka 7. In this sloka, Bhagavan Sri Krishna explains the eternal part of himself, which is the individual soul, is present within all living entities and is the source of consciousness and life. He describes that the individual soul, while residing in the material nature, draws the mind and senses towards the material world. It means that the soul, due to its identification with the material body and mind, becomes attached to the temporary pleasures and sufferings of the material world. Supreme God Krishna also says that the mind and senses are situated in the material nature and are under the influence of the three modes of material nature, like Sattva, Raja, Tama. And it implies that the soul, due to its association with the material body and mind, becomes entangled in the cycle of birth and death and experiences the fruits of the actions. This sloka emphasizes the importance of the understanding the true nature of the soul and its relationship with the material world. It inspires the devotees to focus on the path of spiritual, and it inspires the devotees to focus on the path of spiritual liberation. Shreemad Bhagavad Gita Purushottama Yoga Chapter 15 Sloka 8. In this sloka, Supreme God Krishna describes the relationship between the individual soul, the Supreme God, and the material body. He explains that the Supreme God, who is present in the heart of every living being, enters or departs from the material body. He takes the subtle body like mind, intelligence, ego along with him. He compares this to the way in which the wind carries the fragrance from its sources. It means that the material body and subtle body are like temporary vehicles for the individual soul, which is a part of the Supreme God. This sloka emphasizes the temporary nature of the material body and the importance of the nature of the eternal soul and Supreme God. This inspires the devotees to develop the detachment towards the material body and to focus on the spiritual practice which can help them to attain the eternal abode of the Bhagavan or God. Shreemad Bhagavad Gita Purushottama Yoga Chapter 15 Sloka 9. In this sloka, God Sri Krishna is explaining to Arjuna the soul is attached to sense objects through the senses of hearing, touch, sight, taste, and smell. Even if a person tries to restrict themselves from indulging in sense of enjoyment, the desire for such enjoyment still remains due to past conditioning. However, if one can develop a taste for spiritual practices and experiences, then they can gradually become detached from the lower pleasure and become fixed in spiritual consciousness by focusing on higher goals such as attaining enlightenment and serving others. One can gradually transcend the pool of material desires and find lasting peace and fulfillments. Shrimad Bhagavad Gita Purushottama Yoga Chapter 15 Sloka 10. In this sloka, God Sri Krishna describes the ultimate goal of spiritual practices. The Supreme Person, also known as Paramatma or the Supreme Soul, is the ultimate reality and the source of all creation. This sloka explains, although the Supreme Person is present in his own abode, he is also all-preventing and present in all beings and all things. This means that everything in creations is situated within him and ultimately leads to him. This sloka emphasizes the importance of devotion, as it is through devotions that one can connect with the Supreme Person and ultimately attain liberation from the cycle of birth and death. And God Sri Krishna is a source of all creation. Shrimad Bhagavad Gita Purushottama Yoga Chapter 15 Sloka 11. This sloka emphasizes the importance of spiritual practice and developing a refined consciousness to perceive the divine. In this sloka, Supreme God Krishna is explaining to Arjuna that the yogis who are diligent and focused can see the divine self within them through their spiritual practice, like yoga. However, those who are unrefined and unsteady in their efforts cannot see the self, even though they may strive to do so. In this sloka, Supreme God Krishna emphasizing the importance of dedicated and disciplined practice in order to achieve spiritual realization. Shrimad Bhagavad Gita Purushottama Yoga Chapter 15 Sloka 12. This sloka is emphasizing Supreme God Krishna's all forms of light and energy in the universe are manifestations of his divine splendor. God Sri Krishna explains to Arjuna that the radiance seen in the sun, moon and the fire is a manifestation of his divine splendor. He emphasizes that this radiance is a part of his being and encourages Arjuna to recognize his presence in every aspect of creation. The radiance is omnipresent and illuminates the entire world, making it possible for living beings to see and experience the world around them. Bhagavan Sri Krishna emphasized that all the splendor and radiance is ultimately a part of his divine nature. Shrimad Bhagavad Gita Purushottama Yoga Chapter 15 Sloka 13. In this sloka, Supreme God Krishna explains to Arjuna that he sustains all living beings by his divine energy, which permeates the entire universe. He enters into the earth and supports all beings by his energy, thereby nurturing and sustaining life. Additionally, he becomes the moon and nourishes all plants, which are an essential source of substance for all living beings. This sloka highlights the importance of recognizing the divine nature present in all aspects of creation and interconnectedness of all living beings. Shreemad Bhagavad Gita Purushottama Yoga Chapter 15 Sloka 14. In this sloka, Supreme God Sri Krishna explains to Arjuna that his presence in all living beings. He says that he becomes the fire of digestion in the bodies of all living beings and is associated with the vital breaths of prana and apana. He also mentions that he digests the four kinds of food which are consumed by all living beings for sustenance. These four types of foods are solid, liquid, semi-solid and soft. This sloka highlights the Supreme God Krishna omnipresent nature and his role as the sustainer of all life. Shreemad Bhagavad Gita Purushottama Yoga Chapter 15 Sloka 15. In this sloka, Supreme God Krishna explains to Arjuna his presence in the heart of all living beings and is the source of memory, knowledge and forgetfulness. He is the ultimate reality, and this can be realized through the study and practice of Vedas. Also, Bhagavan Sri Krishna emphasizes that he is the author of Vedanta and the knower of Vedas. This sloka emphasizes the importance of realizing the divine nature within oneself and recognizing that the ultimate goal of all spiritual practice is to attain the knowledge of the divine. Shrimad Bhagavad Gita Purushottama Yoga Chapter 15 Sloka 16. This sloka tells that there are two types of beings in this world. One is Shara, it means the perishable. Another is Akshara, it means the imperishable. In this sloka, Supreme God Krishna explains that there are two types of beings in the world. One is perishable and another is imperishable. The perishable refers to all living beings that are subject to birth, growth, decay and death, while the imperishable refers to the eternal and unchanging aspect of reality that underlies all creation. Supreme God Krishna says that all creatures, including humans, animals and plants, are perishable, are subject to the cycle of birth and death. However, the imperishable is eternal and unchanging and is called the unchanging foundation of all existence, or you can say soul or Atma, who is the part of Supreme Soul, or you can say Paramatma. Through this sloka, Bhagavan Sri Krishna is emphasizing the importance of recognizing the imperishable aspect of reality and striving to connect with it through spiritual practice in order to transcend the cycle of birth and death and attain eternal liberation. Shrimad Bhagavad Gita Purushottama Yoga Chapter 15 Sloka 17. In this sloka, Supreme God Krishna emphasizes that the Supreme Person can be attained only through the unalloyed devotion. That means the devotion without any material desires or expectations. Through this devotion, one can connect with the Supreme Person and attain liberation from the cycle of birth and death. Overall, this sloka highlights the importance of spiritual practice and devotion as a means of connecting with the Supreme Person and attaining the eternal liberation. In this sloka, Bhagavan Sri Krishna emphasizes the importance of understanding and connecting with the Supreme Person through devotion in order to attain the liberation and transcend the cycle of birth and death. The Supreme Person is ultimate reality and the source of all creation, and by connecting with Him, one can experience the true peace, or we can say supreme peace and fulfillment. Shreemad Bhagavad Gita Purushottama Yoga Chapter 15 Sloka 18. In this sloka, Supreme God Sri Krishna describes himself as the Supreme Person who is beyond both the perishable and the imperishable. He explains that as the best among the imperishable, he is known in both the physical and spiritual worlds as the ultimate goal of all beings. Supreme God Sri Krishna says that he is beyond the perishable. It means that he transcends the cycle of birth and death, and he is also the best among the imperishable, indicating that he is the ultimate reality and the source of all creation. He explains that he is known to the both of the worlds. This means he is present in both worlds. Those are material world and the spiritual world. Through this sloka, Bhagavan Sri Krishna emphasizes that the ultimate goal of all beings is to attain the union with Him, the Supreme Person, and to transcend the cycle of birth and death. By recognizing and connecting with the Supreme Person, one can attain the true fulfillment, or you can say supreme peace. Shreemad Bhagavad Gita Purushottama Yoga Chapter 15 Sloka 19. In this sloka, Supreme God Sri Krishna emphasizes the importance of understanding Him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He states that one can who knows Him in this way without any doubt is the knower of everything and engages in full devotional service to Him. Supreme God Sri Krishna is saying that by understanding Him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can attain true knowledge and becomes aware of the ultimate truth of existence. This knowledge is not just intellectual, but is realized through the practice of devotional service, which is characterized by loving relationship with Him. Through this sloka, Supreme God Sri Krishna urging Arjuna and all of us to strive to know Him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engage in devotional service to Him with full faith and devotion. By doing so, we can attain the true knowledge, enlightenment, and eternal liberation. Shreemad Bhagavad Gita Purushottama Yoga Chapter 15 Sloka 20. In this sloka or verse, Supreme God Sri Krishna concludes his teaching to Arjuna by stating that he has revealed the most confidential knowledge to him. He explains that one who understands this knowledge becomes the enlightened and fulfilled in all aspects of life. Supreme God Sri Krishna refers the knowledge as the most confidential. He emphasizes that this knowledge is not easily accessible to everyone, but it has been revealed to Arjuna and those who are ready to receive it. Through this sloka, Supreme God Sri Krishna is highlighting the importance of understanding this knowledge and applying it in one's life. He says that one who does, he becomes intelligent or wise and the fulfilled in all aspects of life. So, Supreme God Sri Krishna urging Arjuna and all of us to strive to understand and implement this knowledge in our lives so that we may attain the enlightenment, wisdom, and the ultimate supreme peace. Thank you for watching.